If you think it's easy to build landing pages, think again, because after building over 400 of them over the last 6 years, I become pretty good at it. But that whole time, I really wished I could have done things better to get faster results for myself and for my clients. So to help you get faster results, here are 27 brutal truths when it comes to building your landing page that actually converts so that you can turn more of your traffic into profits. Lesson number 1. Now, this might be one of the biggest shockers for anyone who's looked into CRO or marketing, and that's because there's a huge misconception when it comes to this topic. There's a reason that Amazon runs over 12,000 A/B tests every single year. There's a reason that companies are investing millions of dollars into their testing when their landing pages are already converting well. And there's a reason that we at our agency work with clients that we've already gotten to 5 to 7% conversion rates, yet we're still running A/B tests for them every single month. And that's because lesson number 1 is that there's no ceiling when it comes to your conversion rate. Most brands make the mistake of thinking that once they reach a good or decent conversion rate, that their optimization efforts are done. But the truth is that there's always something that can be done more on your landing page, whether that's your offer, your copy, your design. There's always something that you can make these small little changes to have massive improvements. People think that optimization is about fixing something that's broken on your website, and that's completely not true. Optimization is about finding continuous improvements and making continuous tests to increase your conversion rate. The fastest growing companies recognize this, and they treat optimization like a never-ending process. They recognize that every market shifts, every audience evolves, and that every test, whether win or lose, can contribute to a higher conversion rate in the future. So don't stop after you reach a decent conversion rate. Lesson number 2. Now there's one single aspect and part of your website that is the most important, and it's not your navigation, it's not your CTA buttons, and it's not your loading speed. This is the one thing that dictates whether somebody will even spend 5 to 10 minutes on your website browsing through your products and services and actually purchase. And that is lesson number 2, which is the above the fold is the most important section of your website. The above the fold is the first thing that users see. It's make or break as far as the first impression of your website. And I've done tons of videos extensively on this channel about what makes a good above the fold, but here are my top tips summarized. First thing is crystal clear value prop. Immediately at the top of the site, you need to clearly convey who you are, what you do, and what's in it for me. And the last part is the most important. Really focus on that benefit that end user gains from your product or service. The second big thing is having an image that actually reinforces your core value prop. Make sure your image reflects what your company does, who you guys are, and make sure it's actually relevant to your brand. Third big thing is making sure your CTA button stands out on the page, it's prominent, and it's benefit oriented, and make sure that it's immediately visible above the fold. People shouldn't have to scroll to see that call to action button. And the last big thing is social proof above the fold. Build that immediate credibility and trust as soon as people land on the website, because most people will not even scroll past that section, so you have to give them every reason to do so. Lesson number 3. Now, all of my marketers out there will understand this because this is one thing that I've found to be absolutely foundational to the success of your landing page. And when you have this in mind, your conversions will be higher, you'll become a lot more profitable, and depending on how you're doing your marketing right now, understanding this one thing can be a complete flip of the switch for your entire business. So lesson number 3 is that people buy with emotion and not logic. We like to think as humans that we're logical decision makers, but oftentimes it's our emotions that get the better of us, and it's the emotions that actually drive us to make that initial decision. So while your customers may justify their decisions logically, it's actually emotion that's driving them to make the decision in the first place. So when somebody actually comes on your landing page, they probably have some sort of emotion. Either it's that pain point that they've been dealing with for such a long time. It might be that dream state or end desire of where they want to be in life, and you have to tap into that emotion on your landing page. Really focus on those emotional triggers, right? What are their fear? What's their uncertainty? What's their dream state, their aspirations? Tap into that. So one great way to do this, I find, is to use customer stories and testimonials to add that emotional layer to your landing page and resonate with your audience. We actually do this for our own website. So when you go to our landing page, page, you can find customer testimonials and stories, and people coming to our website can see other people exactly like them going through the same struggles, the same pain points, and reaching that end state that they also want to reach, which is dealing with low conversion rates on their site and seeing the transformation of how their websites now convert really high, and also how their ad campaigns became a lot more profitable. So it doesn't matter whether you're selling a product or a service, really focus on the transformation and show the before and afters, and you'll be perfectly playing into people's emotions. Lesson number 4. So this is something that's almost kind of freeing, but on the flip side, it also means that you have a lot more work on your landing page than you probably originally thought. And I've seen it personally as well, where we've tested something that worked for one client and it's done the exact opposite for another client. When you've been doing this as long as I have, you'll quickly start to realize that every brand is different, every audience is different, and every company is different. And so lesson number 4 is that there's no such thing as best practices. So don't get me wrong, there's certain principles that will hold true, like for example, reducing friction on your site or having a user-friendly website, but the delineation to make is that the manner in which you implement those principles will differ from brand to brand and audience to audience. So take, for example, the classic 3-click rule. People have this idea that any action should take 3 clicks or less. If you have a complex product or service, it might actually be more beneficial for people to click more items than just 3 because they want to learn more information. And when you think of that user journey, it's more complex. So if they visit 3 or more items, it might actually lead them to be more likely to convert in the first place. Arbitrary rules like this just ignore context, and blindly following them can actually hurt your conversion rate. So my biggest advice is to test, and don't just blindly follow what other competitors are doing or what's worked well for somebody else. Data is your best friend. Use the data to actually experiment and shape all of your insights and decisions. Lesson number 5. So time and time again, I've had people come to me complaining about super low conversion rates after spending hours and hours on everything from copy to design. And there was just one small but very important reason for that, and that was because their pages were trying to become way too clever and creative to the point that people didn't even know what the company did or what the product or service actually was. So something to always keep in mind is lesson number 5, which is that simplicity beats creativity every single time. It's super easy to fall into the trap of making your landing pages stand out with, flashy designs, quirky layouts, and just really creative copy. But if that creativity comes at the cost of clarity, you're going to hurt your conversion rate. So instantly, as soon as somebody comes on your landing page, you need to answer, what is this? Who is this for? And what do I do next? And if that's not immediately clear in 5 seconds or less, you're going to lose a huge potential chunk of your customers. So really focus on reducing clutter and removing distractions. Just focus on one core call to action button and one core main message. And you're going to find a lot more visitors actually purchasing your product or service as a result. Lesson number 6. So most companies treat copywriting like it's some sort of magical art form. They'll spend hours and days on crafting headlines, focusing on different angles, and trying to come up with the ultimate sales message. But the reality is that it doesn't matter how good you are at writing. If your message does not reflect what your customer thinks, feels, or says, your message will ultimately not convert. And that is lesson number 6, which is that the best copy is not written, it's borrowed from your customers. Your customers are already telling you what they want. It's literally in your sales tickets, your customer service report, all of those things in those interactions with customers, they're already telling you what they want. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, just take the words that they're already giving you, like all of their pain points, all of their desires, their objections. You can reinfuse that back into your copy and into your messaging. One of the easiest ways to do this is to use a tool called userbrain.com, where you can run remote testing sessions with your users. So you can ask people to go through your landing page and website and ask them, what are your first impressions upon landing? Get an idea of what they like, what they don't like. Take all of that qualitative insight and then reinfuse it back into your messaging. Lesson number 7. Now, this is one thing that you always have to fight when it comes to your marketing and advertising, but your landing pages even more so. And if you don't fix this one thing, it can literally cut your conversion rate in half and really cause you to struggle to get by. But most people don't even know that it's silently killing their conversion rate. So lesson number 7 is that decision fatigue is your biggest enemy. Really focus on limiting the number of options you give to people. If they're landing on a page and there's too many buttons, there's too many navigation items, there's just way too many places to click, it's going to increase their mental effort and cognitive load and just lead to no decision made at all. When someone lands on your page, they're looking for a clear direction and a clear place to go next, right? But when you give them too many navigation options, too many clicks, too many buttons, it leads to analysis paralysis, and the sheer number of options alone just makes them feel super overwhelmed. Lesson number 8. Now, this is one of the most painful truths for all of my copywriters watching. You've probably heard the phrase content is king, but there's a crucial part of that equation that often gets overlooked, and most people completely don't understand this, especially when it comes to landing pages where it's really important. And so lesson number 8 is that people do not read, they scan. Statistically, people will only read 20% of the content on your website, and the other 80% they just scan. So when people go on your landing page, majority of the times they're not even reading the content, right? They're just skimming through stuff. They're looking through your headlines. They're looking through your content. They're just trying to find the information quickly and efficiently. So the question is, how do you actually make it easy for your visitors to find the information that they're looking for without getting lost in the noise? The key thing is to structure your landing page in a manner that's easy to scan. So think about things like headlines, bolding points, bullet points, and emphasizing and highlighting elements on the page that you want to stand out. I like to operate under the framework that imagine somebody only reads the headlines on your website. Is your value prop and is your benefit clear enough in just the headlines alone, assuming that they don't even read a single word of your body text? The key here is to think like a reader and not a writer. What's the things that people should know at just a quick glance? Put that front and center. Lesson number 9. This is one of the most powerful yet overlooked lessons in conversion optimization. We often get caught up in the excitement of crafting that perfect ad or email, and rightfully so, right? Because that's what's going to get the click in the first place. But here's a critical mistake that I see marketers make time and time again, which is lesson number 9, the post-click matters more than the pre-click. Your landing page needs to deliver on the promise of your ad or email because that is where the real selling happens. This means your landing page needs to mirror the exact messaging, the tone, the copy, the design of your ad or email. Even if there's one small disconnect, it can completely throw off visitors and cause them to not convert and just exit your website entirely. So congruency is super crucial, right? Making sure that everything is perfectly aligned. And when you have the congruency and the smoother the transition is, the more likely somebody's actually going to convert and the better the user experience as well. Lesson number 10. So when it comes to creating landing pages, there's a misconception that if your copy is super strong, your design doesn't matter as much. Or if your design is super stunning, your copy can take a backseat. But this is something I've learned over the years, that copy and design have to go in unison together. They have to work together, and that's when your landing page is going to perform the best. And so lesson number 10 is that your copy must complement your design. It's like trying to drive a car without fuel. You have the vehicle, which is the design, but without the copy or the engine, you're not really going to go that far. So you really need both in order to perform the best. And ultimately, they should work for that one goal, which is conversion. Lesson number 11. Now, I know I said that the above the fold is the most important section of a website, but there might be one other section that is just as important, if not even more important. And that is the bottom of the page. Just think about it, right? A visitor comes to your website, they're learning all about your services, your offerings, your value prop, and they're getting to the bottom of the page and they're interested. Now they're in decision mode. So what is one of the biggest things that would hold them back from moving forward with the decision? Lesson number 11 is that FAQs can be your secret weapon. FAQs are a completely underrated conversion tool. You can address all of your customers' objections and doubts upfront in real time. And the way to get this information is the exact same way I spoke about when getting copy. You can borrow this from your customers. You already have the information. It's in your sales calls. It's in your customer tickets. It's in your customer support. Customers are telling you what their objections and fear are, and it's your job to re-inject that back into your FAQs and address those things up front. A well-structured FAQ section is going to help to reduce friction, build trust, and ultimately lead to more conversions. Lesson number 12. Now this piggybacks off of lesson number 11, and it's something that we've all felt when we're purchasing a product or service. You have that little voice in your head saying, what happens if this goes wrong? Will I get my money back? Is there anything I can do? Who can I reach out to? Who can I contact? These are all natural things. And that's why lesson number 12 is that reducing FUDs, which stands for fear, uncertainty, doubts, is crucial for your website conversion rate. FUDs are the silent killers of conversions. If a visitor has even the slightest hesitation about your product, they're more likely to leave your landing page or website than taking the risk in the first place. So it's critical to actively address these upfront before they become deal breakers. So how do you do this? Biggest way, number one, is guarantees. So highlighting a money back guarantee or, return policy upfront if somebody's not happy with your product. Another big way is having free trials or risk-free trials, kind of like a try before you buy. Again, people are going to feel a lot more confident in taking that next step if they know that they can try it first. Last big thing is social proof. So having testimonials and case studies, it's going to build that trust. And specifically, if you use testimonials around already pre-existing fear and uncertainty that people have. If somebody sees that so-and-so already experienced the same problem and they had the same fear, but they ultimately ended up purchasing the product, they're going to resonate with that a lot more and ultimately convert. Lesson number 13. Now, this one is super controversial, but it's a hill that I'm willing to die on. Conversion optimization specialists love to focus on numbers. They look at bounce rates, time on page, conversion rates, but there's one metric that gets talked about constantly, but it has nowhere near the impact that people think it does. And so lesson number 13 is that page speed is not the end all be all. A fast page will not fix a bad user experience, and having a fast page will most definitely not fix having a terrible design. What actually matters is what users see and feel after they land on the page. And this has been, very well documented in research. There's something called the curiosity effect. When somebody sees that ad or email and they click on it and they come to your landing page, they're curious about what comes next. They're going to wait for that landing page to load if they're already bought into that initial pre-click experience. So this basically means that people are willing to wait an extra second or so if they believe that that page will actually deliver value. But if what they see once they land on the page is underwhelming, it has poor design, poor content, nothing tends to resonate, it doesn't matter if your page loaded in 0.5 seconds. They're not going to convert anyways. And so that's the point that I'm trying to make, right? Instead of over obsessing over saving milliseconds and seconds on your page, first focus on delivering a really good user experience and give users what they need in the first place. Lesson number 14. Now, this is something that I see a lot of business owners try to do. And while you might think that it's a fast track to success, it's actually a fast track to failure. Lesson number 14 is that copying your competitors will always fail. Here's the problem, right? What works for your competitors is not going to work for you. Their audience is different than your audience. Their strategy and their value prop is going to be different than your strategy and value prop. It's like trying to put on somebody else's tailored suit. It's just not going to fit you. Even worse than that is when you copy a competitor, you're always one step behind. Instead of leading the industry, you're following, right? You're following what other people are doing. And instead of actually deeply understanding your customer and what they actually want, you're just trying to copy paste what somebody else has done, thinking it's going to work for you and lead to the same results. True success comes from differentiation, not duplication. Lesson number 15. In the world of marketing, there's one universal truth everybody knows. Data is everything. Data is what helps you understand your customers, help you shape your decisions, and basically dictate your entire strategy. Without data, you're just guessing, right? You're just throwing things on a wall and hoping that it sticks. But the thing is that when it comes to landing pages, people just focus on the very basic metrics, right? Bounce rate, conversion rate, time on page. These are important, but you're barely scratching the surface. What you actually need to do is understand user behavior on a deeper level, not just A/B testing things just to see if your conversion rate will go up, but really understanding your customer. And that's why lesson number 15 is using tools like Microsoft Clarity to run heat maps, click maps, and scroll maps and understand your users on the deepest level possible. So Microsoft Clarity is a free tool that you can install in your site. And I've actually done a detailed tutorial. I'll put the link in the description. Clarity is so insightful because you can actually watch recordings of users on your website. You can see the percentage of people that scroll and reach different sections of your site, and and you can see precisely where people are clicking on your site. So this is the data that can actually help you shape your decisions. It's a lot more insightful than just bounce rates and time on page. It's actually showing you what your users are doing. Okay, so lesson number 16 builds off of lesson number 15. And yes, heat maps are valuable. They're much better than just looking at Google Analytics on its own. They're telling you where people are clicking, how they're scrolling, etc., which you can't really get from traditional tools. But there's one area that they falter. So lesson number 16 is that heat maps do not tell you the full story. So yes, heat maps and other quantitative tools can tell you what's happening on a site, but they cannot tell you why it's happening. You might see people dropping off on a section through a heat mapping tool, but is it because the copy is unclear, right? Is it because the messaging doesn't resonate? Is it because the design is poor? You have no idea just by looking at clicks on a screen. So that is where qualitative insights comes in. These are things like surveys, user testing, actually interviewing your customers, understanding what they like, what they don't like, and what are they actually looking for when it comes to your landing page and website. So qualitative tools are actually giving you the insight you need as far as why customers are not converting on your site. And you can use simple tools like userbrain.com to conduct user testing sessions and interviews and get a treasure trove of insight when it comes to your landing page. Lesson number 17. For years, people have been discussing online about what the perfect landing page looks like, especially when it comes to length. There are countless articles, studies, and opinions claiming one thing or the other, and business owners have started to cling on to what they think is the right approach. Lesson number 17 is that longer pages does not mean less conversions and is not necessarily bad. Your audience is on a journey, and sometimes that journey requires more information, especially if your product or service is complex in nature. So when done right, longer pages actually gives you the opportunity to explain your benefits in more detail. It gives you the opportunity to dive deeper into those pain points that customers might be having, which you wouldn't be able to really get if you had a shorter landing page. And all of those opportunities can help move users closer to a conversion action. So there's nothing inherently wrong with a long landing page as long as every section is adding value and getting users one step closer to conversion. I go through so many websites with short pages that want to just check off the box of being a shorter page, thinking that it's going to lead to more conversions, but they're just missing out on so much value because they're not addressing pain points and benefits throughout that entire page. Lesson number 18. So this is a massive misunderstanding that people have when it comes to landing pages, and it honestly can make sense why they have this misconception. Because of lessons we talked about earlier, like visual hierarchy and decision fatigue, one would think that a cluttered page would lead to less conversions. But lesson number 18 is that there's no such thing as a cluttered page if you design it the right way. It all comes down to visual hierarchy. It's about guiding users' eyes to where you want it to go and creating a smooth flow of information from top to bottom. So this means using things like headings and subheadings and white space to basically divert users' attention to where you want it to go. And this also means prioritizing the most important information using things like size, color, and contrast. Lesson number 19. So there's this narrative floating around that pretty design doesn't sell and that ugly pages can convert. So there is some truth to that. I have seen some ugly pages convert really well, but what people don't realize is that if you took that same ugly page and made it a lot easier to digest the content, a lot more organized, clean, streamlined design, chances are it's going to convert a lot higher. Lesson number 19 is that great design matters despite the narrative that pretty doesn't sell. Because what great design does is it amplifies your results even more. According to Swear, 38% of people will stop engaging with the website if the content or layout is unattractive. There was also a research study done by Stanford that found that 46.1% of people make a judgment about a website's credibility just based on the design alone. So that's things like color palette, font, typography, etc. What people don't understand is that when something looks good, like a landing page looks good, people automatically and subconsciously assume that it also works good and it works well. So I always say that good UI design is also good UX design. People try to separate these two things too much. I'm not saying that having a super flashy design is the answer. What I am trying to say is that if your design looks good, it has organized content, and it's easy to navigate and flows logically, that is going to show that you care about your brand, and it's going to lead to a better user experience and ultimately more conversions as well. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that good design doesn't convert. Good design definitely matters. Lesson number 20. So in the world of marketing, there are countless strategies that people use to increase conversions. But there's one thing that has stood the test of time, and that is lesson number 20, which is to always answer the question of what's in it for me. When someone visits your landing page, they're not looking for a laundry list of features or a long-winded description of your company and brand. What they are looking for is how your offer will directly benefit their daily life. People want to understand how your product and service will actually solve their problems. How will it lead to their end desire or end motivation? So features do not sell, benefits do. Focus on benefits, not features. The example I always like to use is headphones, right? You have wireless headphones. What is the feature of wireless headphones? It's the fact that it's wireless. But what is the benefit of that? The derived benefit is that I don't have to worry about tangled cords all over my desk. I can listen to music stress-free. That is the benefit of what people care about. And as I was just explaining that probably sounds a lot more impactful and resonates with you a lot more than just having wireless as a feature. So framing your message as to how it will benefit your end user will always yield in more conversions. Lesson number 21. So A/B testing is often considered the holy grail when it comes to landing page optimization, and rightfully so. Continuously testing can make a huge difference for increasing your conversion rate. But there's a misconception that A/B tests are only valuable when the test wins. And this can lead to frustration, especially when you have a test that loses or has no outcome. People will often discard these tests and just treat it like what it is, no outcome. Lesson number 21 is that having no result or a failing or losing A/B test is actually a gold mine for your conversion rate. Having no result or a losing test does not mean wasted effort. There's actually learnings that you can get from that test. Understand, why did that test lose? What were the reasons that test lost? Do surveys, do user testing, interview your customers, really try to understand the deeper reason why, and use analytics and data to drive your decisions. Once you understand why that test lost, you can use that to fuel your future hypotheses and lead to actual winning tests. I can't tell you how many times that we've had losing tests at our agency doing tests for our clients, because it's just natural. You're always going to have losing tests, but we take all of the learnings from those tests and we start to get a compound effect and snowball effect where we start getting a lot of winning tests thereafter. Lesson number 22. So imagine you're at a dinner party, right? You see a sizzling hot steak and it looks super delicious. If you're a vegetarian, it doesn't matter how good that steak looks, you're not going to eat it, right? So why are you trying to sell steak to vegetarians? The same logic applies to your landing page. You might have the perfect offer, the best design, the best copy, but if you're not getting the right traffic and the right ICP to your landing page, none of that matters at all. So lesson number 22 is that not all traffic is created equal. Sometimes the problem isn't even your landing page. It's actually the traffic that you're sending to the page. If your traffic source and the intent of visitors doesn't align with what your landing page is offering, your conversion rates will suffer. To make your landing page truly work, you need to hyper-focus your copy on your ICP and then ensure that your traffic sources are aligned to that profile. It's why I often say that conversion rates are a vanity metric. If you're not factoring in quality, if you're getting a lot of conversions and your conversion rate is high, but your leads aren't actually buying, or if you're an e-commerce store and your conversions are high, but people are not coming back to buy again, then having a high conversion rate doesn't really matter. Conversion rate alone does not paint the full picture. Focus on filtering out bad fits through your landing page copy and your design. And what this will actually do, and the beauty of this approach, is it'll also make your targeting a lot better and your ads target the right people a lot better as well, because it's going to be teaching the algorithm who you want to show your ads to in the first place. Lesson number 23. When you're crafting copy for your landing page, one of the most important things to keep in mind is credibility, right? Especially in today's world where people are getting bombarded by ads. How do you make yourself stand out and tell customers that you're the right choice? And sure, testimonials and social proof can go a long way, but there's something that instinctively tends to resonate a lot more with customers. And that is lesson number 23, which is that people trust numbers a lot more than words. Which one would you trust more? A landing page that says trusted by thousands of customers, or a landing page that says trusted by 10,327 customers? Likewise, which one would you trust more? A value prop at the top of a landing page that says helping you increase revenue, or a value prop that says helping you increase revenue by 87% on average? Whenever you quantify the value of a statement, that always tends to resonate with customers a lot more. We as humans are naturally drawn to numbers, and it just adds a ton of more credibility as opposed to just throwing out claims nilly-willy. So whether it's customer testimonials or social proof, the more that you can back up your claims with hard numbers, the more likely people are to convert and actually trust your product and service. Lesson number 24. When it comes to conversion optimization, one of the most debated elements is the call to action. So naturally, you might think that the more direct and upfront CTAs would be more impactful, things like buy now today or sign up today. But even though these are tried and tested, they might not be the most impactful and effective. That's why lesson number 24 is that the best performing CTAs often don't feel like a CTA. Visitors and users on a landing page are becoming more and more savvy. Everyone knows that you're trying to sell them, and they can smell that sales pitch and that CTA button from a mile away. So instead of something like buy it now, using phrases like see how it works or get instant access is a lot less intimidating, and it's going to result in people getting over the edge to actually click the button. Lesson number 25. So when you're designing a high converting landing page, one of the most crucial elements to consider is the user journey. Visitors don't always land on your landing page and convert immediately. Most of the time, they're gonna go take their time to read through the content, look through different sections, probably even get distracted along the way. And so lesson number 25 is to make it easy for users to convert no matter what stage of the journey they're in. What you wanna do is strategically place call to action buttons throughout your entire page. Even if it's in your top navigation bar, that doesn't really cut it because you wanna make the call to action button top of mind. If somebody's reading a section on a page, something resonates, something clicks with them, capitalize on that interest straight away and put a call to action button there so that somebody can convert at any stage of the journey they're in. So we actually did this for one of our clients, Influence Hunter, on their landing page, and we put call to action buttons throughout all of the most critical value prop sections. And what we saw through heat mapping tools and user recordings was people would actually click these buttons throughout the middle of the page. And we saw recordings of people read the sections on the page and then immediately click the button to get taken down to the form. And just for context, their website and landing page converts at 7%, which is well above average. Lesson number 26. So when it comes to creating a landing page, having images plays a crucial role. Humans are naturally visual creatures. We tend to process images a lot faster than we process text. You've probably heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that could not be any more true when it comes to landing pages. So lesson number 26 is that your images should be strategically chosen to reinforce your core value prop. I can't tell you how many times I've come across websites where they use images that have nothing to do with the brand, right? There's no relevancy, there's no impact whatsoever. Someone should be able to look at your image and immediately be able to identify what it is your company does and what is that core value prop as well. So an example of what we did for a client, Influence Hunter, they are an influencer marketing agency, and one of the value props we went for them was creating social proof at scale. So what we did was we put a photo carousel and grid of all of the UGC and influencer content that they were directly in charge of creating. So this complemented that value prop of social proof at scale. This drove a 115% increase in their conversion rate and was one of the many changes that led them to converting at 7% on their landing page. Lesson number 27. When it comes to convincing somebody to take action on your landing page, we all know that social proof can be a game changer. Everyone is more likely to trust a product or service more when they hear other people saying good things about it. Lesson number 27, however, is that not all social proof is created equal. I come across a lot of websites these days that slap on the as seen on logos and put all of these places they've been featured on. But the issue is that this tends to lose a lot of credibility because everyone is doing that these days. So while you might think that these pieces of social proof are actually getting you more credibility, it's often doing the opposite. It's leading people to trust your brand less. You need to make sure that the social proof you choose is actually relevant to your audience and to your end customer. And it has to be the most impactful for your brand. So if your company only has 3 testimonials, then maybe that's something you don't want to highlight at the top of your site. Choose something that's the most impactful. You might want to instead leverage the fact that, one of your customers was able to transform some aspect of their life, right? Handpick those testimonials and feature those at the top of the page instead of the number in this case. Running split test is one of the best ways to unlock revenue for your brand that you might have not noticed before. But there are so many tests you can run, which can make it really tough to know which ones will actually generate you the best results. That's why in the next video, I'll show you 11 landing page tricks that you can make to increase sales instantly. These simple yet powerful strategies will help you convert more on the traffic you're already getting, help you increase your ROI, and help make your business a lot more profitable. I'll see you there.